talk about angles. You probably have a good idea about angles. You may think more about an angle as a rotation or a turn about a point. Examples include arm bending at the elbow or hinged boards snapping shut at the start of a movie scene. You may also think about angles as two sides that meet at a point, like the hands of a clock or the vanes of a windmill. Here are some pictures of different angles. You can also think of angles such as pizza or cutting a pie, or maybe even that looks kind of like a Rice Krispie treat. In math, an angle is defined as two rays with the same endpoint. A ray is a straight, like a line. It has an endpoint where it starts and it goes on forever in the other direction. That's what those arrows mean. It's going on forever. Angles can be measured in degrees. Below are some angles that may be familiar. The angle that a vertex of a square measures 90 degrees. You can think of a 90-degree angle as a 1/4 rotation around a circle. You've gone fourth of the way, 90 degrees. Two rays pointing in opposite directions form a 180-degree angle. A 180-degree angle is like a half a rotation around a circle, or a straight line. A 360-degree angle is the rotation completely around a circle. So when we go completely around the circle, we've gone 360 degrees, and the rays point in the same direction. You can use 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 360-degree angles to help estimate the measures of other angles. For example, the angle below is about 1/3 of a 90-degree angle, so we'd estimate it's about 30 degrees. Here are some definitions that we need to know. These definitions are on page 12 of your yellow book. The definition for an acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. The definition for an obtuse angle is an angle that is more than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. The definition of a right angle is an angle that is exactly 90 degrees. The definition of a reflective angle is an angle that is more than 180 degrees. And the definition of perpendicular angles is like lines that cross. They form a T. They form right angles. Let's look at these diagrams. Each diagram is constructed from the angles of the same size. Estimate the measures of each of the angles marked. For example, if you're looking at the first one here, you can tell that we're kind of forming a circle. If we count the number of angles that are there, we can see that there are 6 of them. Well, a circle is 360 degrees, so if we divide that, we would find that the angle is 60 degrees. For the next one, it looks like we're forming a right angle. Well, we know a right angle is 90 degrees. It looks like it's broken into 3 angles altogether. Here they are, 1, 2, 3. We want to find one of them, so it's about 30 degrees. And for the last one, it's a line, which we know is 180 degrees, broken into 4 angles. And if we take that and divide it by 4, we find out that each one is 45 degrees. Now, here are some benchmark angles that we can use when estimating. You can see a 90 degrees, 180 degrees, a 270 degrees, and notice how the angle's on the outside, not the inside, and a 360 degrees. That is a complete circle. We are going to estimate the measures of angles in each of the following polygons. Let's look at some benchmarks. The 90 degree and the 180 degrees are good benchmarks to use. 90 is like the corner of a paper. 180 is like the lines going across the paper. Use the benchmark angles to help estimate these angles. Here we go. Number 2 here, looking at our book. If we want to estimate, we can add in a straight line. We can try to draw down the line, making it look a little bit more like 90 degrees here, and try to estimate where do we think this would be. So if I put this line in here, kind of think, okay, it's not quite 90, maybe a little bit more than 90, but we can use that as a good estimate to say, that looks about halfway, so I'm going to say that one's about 45 degrees. Again, using lines to help. When we look at this one, we know it's a reflective angle, so we already know it has to be more than 180 degrees. If we draw in our line to have kind of make this 180 degrees here, so I can get a line in here nicely, we can help make that 180 degrees look well for us, and then decide how much more do I have from that. Well, I'm going to estimate that if that's 180, and then if I draw another line down to think about my 90, I'm about halfway in between. So I'm going to say that I have 180 plus possibly maybe not quite halfway, maybe let's say 30 more degrees. Remember, these are just estimates, so they're not exact. And I'm going to estimate I'm around 210 degrees. Your estimations can be off by a few degrees. Number 4, well, it's very small. We know it's acute and it's less than 90. We also know that it's a very small part of an angle. If I put in my line again, I can see how small of that part that is for that 90 degrees. So let's estimate that one to be about 15 degrees. Remember, these are estimates based on our benchmarks. Again, number 5, it is reflective. We know it's going to be more than 180 degrees. If I draw out my line to kind of make this straight, there's my 180. And look, I'm more than halfway over, more than 180. So I'm more than 90. So I'm looking at 180 plus 90 possibly. It looks like I'm a little bit more than that. So I can estimate that maybe this is around 300. Remember, this is just an estimation of what I think it could be. Here's number 6. Again, it is reflective. We know it's got to be more than 180. Draw out your line. Make that straight line to see here's the 180 part out here. Okay, help you with this. There's the 180 part of the angle. Now, how much more do I have here? Well, do I have halfway? Do I have more than halfway? Go ahead and make a line if you need to. We're not quite halfway, so we're not at 90 degrees, but we're a little bit more than 45 partway through. So let's estimate we're going to be about 240 degrees here. For number 7, again, it is reflective. So we know it's more than 180 degrees. We have to figure out how much more than 180 degrees. If I draw my line out to kind of determine here, well, we can see the 180, and then we can see it's probably about halfway more, maybe another 90 degrees. So let's say this one's 270 degrees. And again, 8 is also reflective. It's more than 180. The angle's on the outside. If we go ahead and draw our lines in to see where this one should be, this one's a little harder because we go off the board a little bit here, but here's our 2 lines, making it look to see how much do we have. Well, here's the 180 part. Let's get my pen in here. This is more than 90, so there's 90 degrees angle, plus a little bit more than that even. So if I add all that up, let's say we're at about 330 degrees. Remember, these are just estimations. We figured out our estimations by using our benchmarks. That's what we used, our benchmarks of 90, 180, and 360 degrees. Now here are some more estimating of these below. Again, looking at your benchmarks, explain what you think each angle would be. So on the first one, again, put some benchmarks in. There's 90 degrees. Are we about halfway between? I'd say maybe, yeah, about halfway, so we're at 45 degrees. For the next one, we know it's acute. We know it's less than 90 degrees. If we put in our benchmark of our 90, there it is. We're not even halfway, so we know it's under 45. I'm not even sure we're a third of the way. So let's estimate that one to be about 15 degrees. Here's a couple more. Again, putting in your benchmark. Well, if I draw my line up here, I am almost, whoops, not quite there where I need to be for that line. I'm almost at 90 degrees. So maybe I'm at like 88 degrees because I'm almost there. For the next one, again, my benchmark goes straight up for my 90-degree angle. There it is. Let's get that line moved a little bit better for us. And decide, okay, what do we think? Are we halfway? Are we a little bit more than halfway? I think we're a little bit more than halfway. So maybe we're another 10 degrees. So maybe we're at 55 degrees. Remember, estimations are not exact. So we are trying to determine using benchmarks, where do we think we are? The next one, if I draw my benchmark, well, there's my 90-degree angle. So I know it's more than 90. How much more? Well, is it at least half more or not quite half? Well, if I draw out another line here for my 180 degree, I can kind of see I'm not quite half the way, but maybe part way. So maybe we'll say we're about 115 degrees. And for the next one here, again, draw in your line for your benchmark. There's 90. Are you halfway? Are you more than halfway? I think I'm a little bit more than halfway, maybe not quite exactly. So maybe I'd say I'm around 50, maybe 52 degrees. Remember, these are estimations, so they're not exact. So describe below. Murat said that the angles below are the same measurements. Hannah said angle 2 is larger than angle 1. Who do you think is correct? Well, if we use some of our estimations and we use our rotations for a circle, what we know, we can say, all right, I'm going to draw out my line here. There's my 90 degree. So what do you think I'm about? Am I about halfway, a little bit more than halfway? Where do you think that I am? I'm trying to get this line exact, but it doesn't want to cooperate. I don't think I'm quite halfway, so maybe I'm at about a 30-degree angle. Let's look here. Here's my line. What do you think? Do we think that they're the same? Do we think that they're possibly equal? Do you think that they're not? Why would they think that one is bigger than the other? I think they're both about the same because of the rotation. I think they're about a fourth of a rotation around a circle. If I would make a circle around them, I could draw one. I could put a circle around them and say, okay, where do I think, if I draw out my circle, let's see if I can get a good circle here. Not sure that this is going to cooperate well for me, but we're going to try. So if I put a big circle, let's go for this one around it. How far do you think we rotated around the circle? If that's about in the middle. Let's say that's the middle there. Did we go halfway? Did we go a fourth of the way? How far do you think we went? Here's another one. Let's move the circle over to here. Move this over here for the circle. How far do you think we went? All right? It's hard to estimate. It's one of those things that is more difficult than other things. So if we get rid of that circle out of our way, let's take it right. Who do you think is correct? Well, I think they're about the same. I think Hannah only said they were bigger because the lines were longer. So I'm thinking Maria is correct. They really are the same when you use the circle test. So I would use the circle test for the 1/4 to say, yep, I think they're about the same. We would only know if we were 100% correct if we took out our protractor and we actually measured these angles to see if they were exactly the same. All right, your homework's page 2 and 3. Go ahead and give it a try, see what you can do.